Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. And today we are not doing client interview or testimonial. Instead, we're going over a big mess up by Enopoly. And not necessarily saying that Enopoly caused this or the company caused this. A lot of things have happened and it's kind of like a perfect storm. But obviously we are the first to step up and show responsibility for these actions. A lot of people come in and we tell you guys straight up, you're going to sell products that are negative. You're going to have things happen all the time in this business. And we're going to fix it, and that's just part of the process. Although sometimes things that we cannot control and cannot predict happen. And those instances, we will 100% always take responsibility for. And that's why we're making this video. I want to show you guys what happens when something massively messes up. Because here on this video, I have one of our clients and he lost $26,000. $26,000. That's a whole Toyota. Okay. So not a small loss by any means. And we're going to show you guys what we do. So before we get into the details, I'm going to introduce to you guys our client, Robert. Robert, say hi to everyone.
Hey everyone.
So Robert's been with us for, Robert, what is it, like a year and a half now?
Yeah, I believe we started the store in October of 2023.
Okay, so yeah, we're coming up on 2 years. It's about a year and a half in. Now Robert actually owns more than one store with us. Now we recently just created a new partnership on a brand that Robert actually owns. It's a multi seven-figure brand. Well, not seven, I'm sorry. It's an 8-figure brand. Don't let me
just numbers.
Qualify that. Yeah, so it is a multi 8-figure brand, and we got the opportunity to help them expand and grow on Amazon. All right. So this is not Robert's first business. He has many successful businesses. Before recording this, we're talking about all the new ventures he's in, different investments between real estate, businesses, and all that kind of stuff. So his time is very valuable, and obviously he's on here giving us a few minutes out of his busy schedule to kind of go over the mess up that we did, so you guys can feel safe and comfortable when you're working with Enopoly. Robert, I remember, this was maybe a month or two ago, you reached out to me and you're like, dude, something's wrong with my store. You remember that? Obviously, I went out and started doing an investigation, and this wasn't something that I was able to catch right away. It took like a little over a month to actually be able to trace it down and figure it out. The issue we knew happened, right? What kind of happened, so you guys understand? This is not something, we made a bad buying decision and the product is completely useless or worthless. No, this is a situation where it's a mixture of a perfect storm between we had newer employees in the warehouse are also no longer here. Then we also had UPS, and then we also had Amazon. So there's 3 parties involved, and no one was willing to take the responsibility. This was going on for months, right? Before even Robert was able to catch something, was like, hey, I'm not making the sales I'm supposed to be making, right? What had happened was either UPS or Amazon lost all the units. Now, obviously, some of the employees from our warehouse could have actually mislabeled them or whatever. We can't get that information because we're no longer with them, or they're no longer with us. So anyways, either Amazon and or UPS both lost it, parts of it, whatever the case is. We simply do not know. We filed claims with all their insurance companies, but everyone's declining it because there's not enough evidence. And because of that, I had to, take it out of the company's pocket and make sure Robert gets a full refund for that mess up. That's not his doing. He did everything what he was supposed to do as a client. He accepted the invoices. He does not complain. If there is a problem, he brings it up and lets us figure it out. And that's exactly what happened. Now, I'm not saying his business is not perfect. There's still, we solve issues every single day in every single business. But, that massive mess up by us was fixed. Can you kind of explain your situation or how that made you feel, or anything you'd like to add to that or say?
Sure. One of the nice things about working with you, Vlad, is that I don't have to think about too many things. That's kind of what you do, right? Is you take the burden of running the day-to-day off of me. The downside of that is sometimes when I go check on things, there's a surprise because I haven't been paying close attention maybe other than doing the basic day-to-day stuff. It's just kind of a benefit and a curse. I like to have my hands in my businesses often, but sometimes when I come back and I look at some numbers and I see some trends or whatever, and it makes me ask a question like, wait, something doesn't look right here. Let me go dig into it a little bit. And I don't necessarily have the personal visibility on all of those things because I'm not doing the day-to-day work, right? And so I don't know what's going on, but I see something's off, so I throw it against the team. One thing about your team, I told you this from the very beginning, I was a little skeptical working with you because, your marketing is, you have your persona that you show off in your marketing. And it's a little bit, sometimes it's a little, I'll say off-putting because you're kind of that flashy guy and everything. So I was a little nervous this, but we had a relationship. So I was like, all right, let's do this. We jump in. And after, I think it was about 90 days of working with your team, I was like, damn, these guys are very responsive, very professional. They get the information that I request. There's never like a problem with them, and that's continued on. And that kind of what happened here. So I threw it across. I'm like, hey guys, something seems off about my numbers. It doesn't seem like some things are moving. And that was when they kind of figured out that some of these units were lost. And I will add to what you said, like not all the units were lost. I think that I had ordered 100 units of this particular product, and they was shipped in a couple different tranches, and one of them made it, and I think half of the other one made it, and some didn't. So it looked like things arrived, right? But there's those unit counts that was kind of messed up. So it was a pretty hard problem to spot exactly. I think, so it took a little digging, but anyways, I put it across the team, and they did the investigation and came back and realized units were missing. So, and at first it was like, well, shit, what do we do? I mean, again, you're saying it's sometimes these things happen and everybody points like the Spider-Man picture, everybody's pointing at each other, and you're like, yeah, but somebody fucked this up. They had to have. Before it went too far down that road and having to think, actually was at fault, you guys offered and stepped up and like, hey, we're going to refund, we're going to put the money back in your account. And I think that took a couple days once it was kind of figured out what was going on. So I didn't really have time to have any like emotional damage over the problem, I guess you could say, because it was remedied really quickly, So yeah, your team is they do a great job. I can't really say that enough. With a lot of plates spinning, and I got 2 kids, a new baby here in the last year, a lot of things happening. It's hard to pay attention to everything, that I'm working on sometimes. That's what the teams are for, and so I do have a lot of confidence, just, because your team is responsive and they figure it out,
And for those of you that are wondering, do you have to, constantly check your business and catch these mistakes? The organization knew about this for a couple of months. Now, because of such a large amount, and we knew we didn't mess up that bad, we obviously went out after the claims and tried to fight and argue with UPS, with Amazon, and it's been working for a couple of months. It wasn't brought up to my attention because there is a chance that we're going to get this fixed without anyone have to put money out of their pocket except the insurance companies from those other companies. Now, when it starts taking too long, my number one priority is the investors, is our store owners, right? If you guys lose buying confidence, that means the whole company starts going down, right? Because it's not just making money or losing money. It's if you're not confident anymore moving forward, that's when things start going down. And that's why we took the responsibility and said, okay, you know what? We can't afford to Robert not to spend money on inventory. We can't afford none of you guys to stop spending money on inventory, right? Because that's the whole concept of this business, the whole point of it. So you have to take money out of pocket, make sure Robert was reimbursed for those mess ups. Hey, you know what? Maybe if we're lucky enough, there is like a 1% chance. One of these companies' insurance will step up and pay for it. If that doesn't happen, it's completely worth it for us to make sure that our clients actually have the confidence to keep purchasing and keep building the business with us. So we already knew about this issue. We're just still working on it. At this point, with this scale of our business, basically the only way you would fail as a client in Enopoly is if you give up. Because if you don't give up, at this scale, we are going to fix the problem. If something like this happens, we're 100% committed to you guys. But you got to understand that it takes time, right? This is the second instance that's ever happened that's this large in this company. And every single time, this is the second time it's happened, both times, we made that decision to pay back the client right away. Are we contractually bound to do that? No. We don't have to do anything. That's business, and risk happens all businesses. But we run a good business, and from what Robert said, team does pretty good. You have anything to add to that, Robert?
No, I mean, look, this is the promise that you kind of made at the beginning of the hands-free Amazon store, the automated business. I think the only work that I really do is approving purchases and invoices. And, look, you guys don't hit all home runs. There's some products that, you bought, we put in the store. And I don't know. I mean, the variety of strange and unusual items that I have in my store is kind of funny to me. People ask, oh, what do you sell? And I'm like, I don't even know. I have these things, and then I've got these other things, and rifle scopes and knives and like sewing kits and breaker boxes. It's very strange, and so I don't always know what's going to sell either. Frankly, I think your team doesn't always know. Some of it is like, we think this is going to be good, and not everything's a hit. It can't be, but you're not looking for everything to be a hit. You're looking for enough to be a hit, and some you sell at a loss, and we have some stale inventory right now. That's another one. I brought it up to the team, some stale inventory, and I was like, hey, can we just get rid of this. And so we worked on a deal where they're like, is it okay if we lose a little bit of money to get this inventory moved down? Because I think about capital deployment. If I've got inventory sucked up in old inventory or capital, I can't reuse that. And so they put it out. They said, here's how much, per unit we expect that you're going to lose on this. No problem. I can write that off. I would rather redeploy that on items that are going to actually be profitable, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think, that's the kind of involvement. But that's what I like doing too. I like looking for those problems, but I don't have to solve it because your team actually does the work. And they've always done a great job of providing those, like the reports and the insight into what's happening upon request. I've never got pushed back. I'm like, we can't really do that. Or, it's like, yeah, just give us a minute. Let's see what we can pull up. And then, within a day or two, usually I get some kind of a report or response back from them, with the information that's requested. So look, these are, businesses are never easy. They never go the way you want them to go. And I think like one thing I try to tell my teams is your customers don't care if you screw up. What they care is when you screw up, how do you remedy it? Everything happens wrong. Like I own a restaurant, and let me tell you, like shit happens all the time in a restaurant. Something comes out, they're like, I didn't like the way the pickle was laying on the thing, and you're like, okay, sometimes it's a stupid thing. It's not even. I wouldn't even complain about it. Like, come on, man, that's what you're complaining about. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's like there's a book called "Give Them the Pickle." I don't know if you've ever read that about customer service.
Not actually.
It's a good one. You should. Yeah, it's a very good one. And the idea is like fix the problem for your customer. Just fix it, and you'll gain loyalty, you'll gain trust, and you'll gain repeat customers. So it's worth it for you, even if it costs you, like you're saying, costs you a little bit, and you keep that loyalty. But people just want things to be fixed if there's a problem, and then they're okay. I don't expect a business to be perfect. I don't expect everything to go right how I want it to. I just want remedy when something does go wrong, So try to kind of instill that in my team as well. And that's kind of how I see the situation.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Now, like I said, guys, we do everything in our power to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen. But obviously, there's things that are outside of our control, and especially as we're scaling, growing, there's gonna be problems, and we're gonna be here to fix them. For those of you that are wondering what kind of results has Robert experienced with us, without going into how much money you're making, can you kind of talk about your business with us?
Yeah, how do I do that without talking about the money?
Well, don't talk about profit, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's a 7-figure store, and I think we scaled to 7. It's a strong 7 figures, and we scaled to that in probably. So we launched in October. I think we were hitting like, let's say $100,000 months by probably May, I think, of last year, somewhere around that. So it was pretty, it felt painful at the beginning because, you have to front load a bunch of inventory for this, right? And then it's not results immediately, but then as it starts to tick, it just takes time to move through the systems, right? And I think within about 8-9 months or so, we were starting to hit those 6-figure numbers. It's been pretty consistent since then. And overall, I think net at the end of the year, my net profit was somewhere around about 10%. After our profit split and the different things that we do, and fees and whatnot, it's after everything, which is a great return, when you're thinking about capital deployment,
Are you talking about when you said 10%, are you talking about what your total spent amount was, or are you talking about total capital that you've been able to flip?
Well, those are different numbers. Yeah, exactly. So you're looking like a cash on cash return, and I don't know that number off the top of my head. It's bigger, obviously, because the amount of capital I had to deploy to get that 10%. I'm talking just pure business profit. If you think about like your net profit of an operating business, kind of think about it in 2 ways. One is a business owner, one is an investor, I guess you could say. We cycle inventory. I think generally we cycle inventory about 3 to 4 times a year through my store, and so I got to redeploy the same capital. So my cash on cash is much better than that. But if I'm just talking about the business itself is actually profitable, right? And that's what you want. But yeah, that is a nice thing, is the redeployment of capital on a relatively quick. I mean, it's pretty good. You turn inventory in a distribution business 4 times a year. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty standard because when we're working deals with these brands, and no one's going to give us 1 month of supply. It's 3, 4, 5, 6 months sometimes. And then at the end of the day, as long as it's profitable and it's making you money and it's beating your S&P 500, then you're doing good.
For sure, absolutely.
So without dragging this along, guys, we lose daily, so you do not have to lose. We're gonna take it. We're gonna do everything. We're gonna take responsibility if we mess up, or if someone else messes up. Obviously, honestly, it's worth it for us. At this point, we've been doing this for coming up on 6 years. There's nothing to hide, right? Like Robert said earlier, I'm flashy, but guess what? I get the right to be because I make a lot of people a lot of money, right? If I was flashy and didn't do that, I would not be in this business anymore. A lot of our competitors are gone because of that. But we are doing good. I'm not for my words. That's what Robert said. But yeah, those of you that want more information, get back to the rep that you were speaking with, or if you're not, there's going to be a link down below. Submit an application, and then from there, book a time on our calendar to speak with us to see if this is the right opportunity for you. Again, Robert has a store, 7-figure store. He's about to be a multiple 7-figure store. He's well over 6 figures in profits. I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to have a bunch of disclaimers on this video. Robert, I definitely appreciate your time hopping on and sharing your experience with us. Let's crush it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.